Greetings, friends, enemies, and the rest of you. Let's see. My legal appellation has been scandalized, so you may address me as Buffalo Sojourn until I get that rectified. Um, I'm from the same town as McDonald's and the Hells Angels. Only its difference is I was born in 1949, which actually factually makes me a Bonnaroo 49er. Football's very nice, but it's me, Bonnie Raitt, and KPFA who are the real 49ers here. Um, that's where I started from. Let's see. Where I'm at, I'm a citizen of the greater Bay Area, a city that doesn't know it's a city yet except for them doofus BART cops, and they get away with murder. Um, in this greater Bay Area that doesn't know it's a city yet, its most wondrous aspect is the Bonnaroo second generation. Seeing as how I'm a Bonnaroo 49er, I know about Bonnaroo, and Silicon Valley is nice, but our best export is the young ones who've grown up around here and have a clue as to who they are and what they represent. It's embedded. What's our next segment?
Have any memories from childhood you could mention?
Hmm. Memories from childhood I can mention. I passed through the majority elementary school in Brooklyn, but after leaving there, everywhere we moved to, because my father was in the Army and we moved a lot, there was nothing like it. So I really thought that my recollections of first grade to fifth grade in Brooklyn were some part of lies that I'd figured. I also had an anathema to men wearing too much jewelry because they had fighting jewelry back there. Jewelry that if you got hit with, you was messed up. Not, never mind the fist, the jewelry would tear you up. And actually, my memories, except for there were two songs, Under the Boardwalk and Up on the Roof. And the fact that if I ever saw a grown man in a suit and a pair of Chuck Taylor high-top Converse, I knew he was from New York. But I was pretty well half grown before I came to realize, oh, not all those lies, because I'm reading a book here, Education of Man, Child, and Problem, and they're talking about the same stuff I remember. So that was a big thing. I was about 18, 19 before I realized my recollections of New York were not entirely fantasy, although I haven't seen anything like them since. I think the closest thing that reminded me of New York was Mexico City. I mean, they wasn't as compressed, but there was that many density, they just spread horizontally rather than vertically. But a whole lot of different tracks moving at the same time. If you can imagine a street full of escalators moving at different speeds, that's Mexico City. Wow. Step out, next thing you know, you're doing 10 clicks a minute. And you were just doing 2 clicks a minute in the step before. Yeah.
Any early memories of Berkeley?
Oh, let's see. I didn't get to Berkeley. We didn't get back to California until 1965, at which time I was 15.
Good year.
Yeah, I was 15 years old. And even though I'd been to elementary school in Brooklyn, I knew nothing of Malcolm X. I remember distinctly and clearly my congressman said, never mind how they do me, keep the faith, baby, and I was about that, but I didn't remember Malcolm. So at 15, we landed in Richmond. And I was just thoroughly dazed. The California girls, I couldn't quite get it into my mind what I was perceiving, but everywhere I was, a 6 months of sunny weather, if you're lucky, and it's just different. All them sun-kissed girls, I remember at the time I felt I was real socially deficient because I didn't know how to beg for a leg. I'd never been past second base. I didn't know how to play the dozens. 15, coming to California.
Mm-hmm.
How I discovered Berkeley, it turned out that a young man from Berkeley was enamored of my sister, and the only way she could go to Berkeley is if her big brother came along. And I enjoyed that because between Richmond and El Cerrito, I wasn't sure what I was. It was all kind of, is that a duck? Is that a bat? Is that an owl? What is he? He is so weird. Um, I was just my experiences and what presented what was before me in life, 1965. Uh, I didn't know how to handle myself. I didn't know what to say. Uh, yeah.
What happened a few years later? Because from 65 to 70, that's a very interesting period.
Yeah. Well, let's see. By 65, my father always told me to get the same promotion, you'll have to be better than twice as good. So get ready for it. He'd been through the army before, during, and after integration, so I took that serious. But my mother was, he was more or less just keep getting better at whatever you do, but she had definitely, in order to get her off my back, I planned it so that after leaving home, I would get me a Rhodes Scholarship, you know, maybe get a law degree, run for office, whatever, get her off my back and then figure out what the heck to do with my life. Um, for a while I was arguing that really it'd be better to let me go to Culinary Arts Institute in San Francisco because wherever I went to college, culinary arts would prepare me better to make side money. So I wouldn't have to, they wouldn't have to, like support me so much if they just like let me do this Culinary Arts Institute. Just, oh, hell no. This thing, affirmative action, I don't know how long that'll last. You're going straight to college. So I went straight to college. I was a broadly educated, ignorant young man given to a lot of thought.
Hmm.
Let's see.
So around in the late 60s, maybe 1970 or so, the Black Panthers started to make the scene. And
No, to be precise, the Black Panther Party fractured on the 5th of August, 1971.
1971.
That is when the party fractured. That's when
Yeah.
there
Were
was a
you
lot
aware of them?
I had no choice. I was in the middle of it.
What happened?
After the 3K coup, I had to tell my dad, hey, Dad, look, he says, wait a minute, you could have got a West Point on my record and your grades. You could have, I thought you was after the Rhodes Scholarship. Why are you going with them? They're half-cocks. He says, Dad, after the 3K coup, I cannot trust your chain of command, the red, white, and blue. So I got to figure out something else. And joining with these guys, I think, will help me learn how to be about something else, upright. Because Nixon, no, sir. Can't do it, sir. No disrespect to you. Just my version of Buffalo Soldier. We'll take AK over M16, and we'll take red, black, and green over red, white, and blue. We had already agreed the gun that they give the soldiers for Vietnam was a chicken shit tool. That 223 round wasn't built to kill, it was built to maim. It was built on the theory. They resupplied the Army away from the M1 and the 30 caliber carbine to this M16 that was built to fire a maximum of 1,200 rounds a minute, which is ridiculous. In a handheld single-man weapon, 1,200 rounds a minute, bullshit. You got to have ammunition carrier and all that. I mean, you got 1,200 rounds a minute, you get 50 caliber, hell. But anyway, turned out it all became, because of this think tank view of this Pentagon thing, hey, it takes 2 of their guys to bury 15, and it takes 15 of them to tend to 2 lives. So they got this 223 round that actually was an evasion of the Geneva Convention. So once it hit body mass of a pinwheel, then the extra added ugliness is some pimp for a powder manufacturer. Now Mattel made the weapon. It was built to fire on a certain powder, but that's not the powder. Somebody else's powder was used in the bullets, so that the nasty little piece of shit maiming tool would jam at half auto. So of course the fellas preferred the AK. Yeah? It just was a chicken shit tool on 2 counts, and that was before I even got political. See, first, let's see, I land at little college in southeast Portland. I'd been to high school debates and everything like that, but I was a virgin. I was horny. Um, my soul got psychedelicized. Thanks to James Marshall Hendricks, I went from being young and horny to never giving a minute's worry about how to fuck anybody's daughter. Thanks to Jimi Hendrix, I escaped the realm of fuckery. I went straight from horny to making love. Man, that was great, great, great
And
saving of time.
and
Spirit.
Hendrix had something to do with that?
Oh yes, he was my pivot point. Oh yes, Jimmy woke me up to that. Hey.
How? In his music?
Oh yes, oh yes. What he communicated through his music, he
Huh.
woke me up to that clearly. Uh, I'm a man that loves women. Okay, so and as I say, I'd never learned how to play the dozens. Couldn't cuss for shit. You know, didn't know how to beg for leg. And this just seemed like, hey, wait, that makes perfectly utter sense. So as it happened, I was surrounded by, 1200 intellectually developed people who were commonsensically deprived, or let's say they were, you know, their intellectual maturity and their physical maturity and their sexual maturity was three different things. And I was too ignorant to be afraid, so I was greatly blessed. I was greatly blessed during the time my soul was psychedelicized. I was so blessed. I was so blessed.
So you've had some psychedelic experience as far as
Oh yeah.
your consciousness.
Put it this way: by the fall of '68, I was one of the go-to people. If somebody was bad tripping, they find me because I had figured out how to help somebody get more than three toes on the ground. You have guides, but where do you go when somebody's really out there? Well, it turned out after a while we learned about ice cream and milk, but as far as reasoning with somebody, perceiving how to help them come back along that cord and get more than half a toenail on the ground, turned out I had a gift for that. Okay.
Was it from your own experience of taking the substances?
I'm sure that was part of it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Did you experience any profound revelations?
Oh
or
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's three guys that come out of Navy intelligence World War II: L. Ron Hubbard, Frank Herbert, and Robert L. Heinlein. Now all three of them learned something in there, but let's see. For the first 10 years, L. Ron Hubbard and his school of thought was onto something everybody could use. After that, it got tweaked some because he was under pressure. Robert Heinlein mainly wrote to redirect the imaginations of young armed forces. He wrote for the junior high school mentality or for somebody on Army base with nothing to do with read a book. And he wrote a really pivotal book called Stranger in a Strange Land. Okay?
Yeah.
Now what fucked him up was the first manifestation of the phenomenon of the stranger in a strange land. It didn't look like him, it looked like Jimi Hendrix. It messed him up. He died a bitter, bitter old man. Because whereas he prophesied this raising consciousness of a stranger in a strange land, he no more expected it to be somebody of purely African and Indian ancestry.
So you're sort of saying that Jimi Hendrix was that stranger.
Yes, he was the first one to manifest all of that.
Do you
Okay.
think Hendrix had some kind of extraterrestrial connection?
Okay, I think the brain is a filtering agent. Many things go on in the universe, and the brain filters it down to what's necessary or what pleases you or what alarms you. But meantime, the universe exists. Okay, we're just not aware of it. If you think of it like a big swimming pool, well, then something like acid more or less throws you in the middle of the pool. Here's the universe. There's stuff under the water. There's stuff on the surface. There's stuff in the air, and the ground's over there. You know. Sometimes I think that while he was perfecting the wah-wah pedal, because he in fact invented it, I think he and Jim Marshall of Marshall Speakers did outside move on the wah-wah pedal. So over the years, how I get to it is, I figure we're all born with a certain amount of spiritual electricity. And a normal dose is 110 volts. Okay, we all get 110 volts spiritually at birth. Over our development, our circumstances, we can be diminished down to 12 volt, 11 volt vampires. We can go to 220, 440, or electric ladyland. So, whether it was Jimmy electrocuting himself with a wah-wah pedal while he was high on acid, whatever it was, yes, Jimmy spent a significant percentage of his attention elsewhere, and it was fruitful. Also, it manifested prophecies, but it really racked some folks up because they didn't expect the prophecy to get fulfilled like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you, before we move on, could you, we didn't quite tap into that rich vein of the Black Panthers, and you said you were right in the middle of it. What did you see going on with the Black Panthers from your own experience? Did you meet any of the leadership?
Yes.
Such as who?
Well, the issue was, okay, as my soul was getting psychedelicized, the 3K coup was being perpetrated. By the end of the 3K coup, I had gained my stature in the Red Mountain Tribe. I was staying up in school. And essentially my game plan was to do 2 years at this school that produced more Rhodes Scholars than any other school in the country. Then I would go to transfer to a traditionally black college in the South and force the Rhodes people to accept SNCC as an extracurricular activity. That was my roadmap for Rhodes Scholarship. Perhaps my mother was afraid of me and my little dandelion afro and my dad's World War II Army peacoat going down the Mississippi to Tougaloo State and talking like I talk. I didn't receive the papers. So she and a family friend, who was also a counselor, counseled me about, well, never mind them, just stay in school, enroll at a junior college, because I didn't really intend to go back to the school I had left. I'd done my 2 years there, and I was out of there. I had my Red Mountain Tribe connections, but I didn't intend to go back to that school. So I wound up talking my way into the University of California. And that was interesting. So then one of my senior brothers on the BSU on the organizing Black Studies side, while up in Cal, I'm studying draft evasion, draft resistance, Black Studies, Third World, stuff like that. At that time, Third World, everything was the fifth floor of Eshelman Hall. You had one room for everybody said they were black or African Student Association, one room for everybody Asian, one room for everybody said they were Indian, and one room for everybody spoke Spanish, you know. Now, there were some interesting people there. Anyway, one of my senior brothers from Portland said, well, while you're down there, why don't you find out what it takes for us to start a chapter of the Panthers up here. I think we want to start a chapter. So I went over here on Shattuck and started asking about, you know, what it took. And essentially, after years of reflection, there were three variables that shifted me from to see my position was, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. But in the land of the insane, the half-wit will get hung. So to my mind, the Panthers were in an insane position. They were going to kill suicidal position. So, whereas the Black Panther had been my totem since I was 9. With these guys I was hearing about here, and you mugs are just talking about sacrifice for fucking out. So I wasn't really. Anyway, I go there. And three variables caused me to join the party. First, the caliber of females, the caliber of women inside the Black Panther Party. Second, these ferocious people who would get up 2 hours early in the morning, go wash down the kitchen of a church they don't go to, go feed other people's children while they know that their children have got federal harassment from the first grade on. That got me. Okay. And the third thing, of course, was a group of men that were prepared to kill or die on principle. So, after the Bobby Kennedy kill, that seemed to be the most honorable. Also, I had driven They had anti-war rallies. Kezar Stadium in San Francisco and in New York. I drove a busload of people down for that. And that caught Cleaver talking. So from Portland, I studied his talking and writing. And what happened, there were some interesting parallels in his thinking and stuff I'd already figured out. So I was studying Cleaver before, well, actually I had read his stuff before he became a Panther. Him and James Baldwin had an interesting altercation. And I was just, because I was young, intellectual, and we're 700 miles away from the Bay, and all these things are going on, I'm reading about it. But anyway.
Are you talking about the altercation and when Cleaver met James Baldwin?
No, the altercation was over with by then.
Oh.
They had a literary altercation. I believe Baldwin was talking about the pressures of being born here. And Cleaver said, look, dummy, Oedipal Rex and all that shit is not your fucking job. Don't get stuck on their shit. Basically, they were talking about metaphysics and shaping of the mind. And Cleaver was saying, yeah, but this is a side effect from somebody else's culture. You have to get past that shit.
Uh-huh.
And in Paris, they functioned in conjunction quite effectively.
Mm. Did you ever hear Huey talk?
Yeah. I was there when the party fractured. August 5th, 1971.
What was your impression when you heard him?
To tell you the truth, I was so dumbfounded by the fracture, I didn't pay him serious attention.
I see.
Okay. Now it turns out he passed us all, but he's passed through the flea market many a time. You've seen him, I've seen him, but he wasn't trying to be noticed as Huey. I might have smoked a joint with him at one time, but it was not with the knowledge he was Huey. It was when he had escaped his own security and was just trying to pass for another black man walking around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Angela Davis used to go to the flea market.
Oh yeah. Well.
I met her. I saw her there, and powerful people. I mean,
there were some extraordinarily powerful people in there. One of the things that's hard to understand is anybody can be a hero for 5 seconds. To hold a position for 5 minutes is difficult. To hold a principal position in a heroic fashion for any period of time is a serious thing. One of my arguments has always been there are those who were heroic and those who were corrupted, those who were worn down, but don't let any of that diminish from their heroism.
so what do you think? How things stand now, since that time, and here you're in Berkeley now. So what do you see as going on now?
Yeah, well, first, a number of us who had been through that circumstance failed to respond appropriately to the circumstances following the inauguration of young Barack Obama. Now, understand me. Metaphysically, it was a joy. And me and mine, fly land near Michelle, we'll draw blood. Barack, your security's on you. But a fly land near her and the girls, Donny Hathaway's word is still good. We'll draw blood. It's known. Okay? Now, the mistake we made was Holder had more courage at the time than Obama. Holder gets to be Attorney General, but he goes and finds out, wait a minute, my security is some big Nazis. Because by the time they come in, out of the 100 different versions of the alphabet gang, 1/3 of them, hey, they're peeking over the desk at a direct order, hoping that they'll live long enough to expend their retirement. 1/3 of them is reporting to something other than the federal government, and 1/3 of them is reporting to the federal government. Holder was at a distinct disadvantage, but those first 2 years were the very best time for some of us to share some of our suffering and make a federal case out of it. there are a number of transgressions that could be easy victories on the federal level, on any kind of court level, international court, federal court, whatever. So that's one profound shortcoming. Another one is there's two dead heroes. One, Melvin Dixon, who was a Panther to the end, and his loyalty was with Huey, and D.C., who joined the party and helped form the San Francisco chapter, but later became more specifically affiliated with the Black Liberation Army. And both D.C. and Melvin say, in different words, the same thing. We need to own our mistakes. We've been giving the alphabet gang too much credit. We need to get together, go over this stuff, own our mistakes, because the people coming after us might need benefit of our experience. Okay? It's either we as a group start bringing stuff out, or individually we bring stuff out and face rancor from the rest. Yeah.
Well, we're getting near the end here, so I got to ask you about the future and now. What's going on now, and
the
what you see in the
now.
future?
Yes, Chaka Khan was an appropriate female response to Jimi Hendrix, and this little Greta is an appropriate female response to little Bobby Hutton. Do you understand me?
Okay.
Different tactics, but same intent. And I hope they protect her better than we protected Bobby. And whether they kill her tomorrow or she lives 100 years, I hope she is effective as a coherent. I think of her, I read about it in the book about the Indigo Children. My daughter is amazed at her daughter, and I said, geez, you need to find somebody that was around with you before you were 5, girl, because you both, I haven't told them about this Indigo child business, but they both, like little Greta, demonstrative of the phenomenon, you know? Yeah. There was a book written in '74, Aikwe Arma, after they deposed Kwame Nkrumah and Ghana began getting jacked. He wrote a book called The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. Well, the beautiful ones are being born in a higher percentage now than ever before. There's more return to low people back on the earth. For the future, it goes back. The very best student of Eldridge Leroy Cleaver was no part black. He was a full-blooded Sioux Indian by the name of John Trudell, my good friend, strong John Trudell. There are those that studied Cleaver while he was in the party, like Mamiya, and there are those that studied Cleaver after he went on to a broader vision, like John, like strong John Trudell. He wrote a poem about invader madness. They brought institutions, miseducational schools, prisons, poisons, bad food, with no way out for themselves. The combination, the concatenation of all these malevolent views have left no way out for them. The third miracle of the Million Man March occurred at about 2:45. There was about 1.4 men of predominantly African ancestry. And at that moment, there was no safer place on the entire third stone from the sun for anybody's grandma, granddaughter, great-grandma, or great-child than among us. And we are hated for that fact. No safer place on the planet for even our worst enemies, defenseless family, than among us. No safer place on the planet.
Well, what is your role in this life? What?
The roles change as time passes. Part of what my function now, I deliver raps for the ones coming after us chronologically. I have to tell them, understand me when I say the primary justification for my continued existence in this location is the amount of clean information, aka the truth, that I'm able to convey to the oncoming generations, which is you. Okay? I'm doing one of the things that Huey started out doing, which is delivering conceptual tools. Okay. Also, being a student of history before I knew it, I'm due to get in more trouble for correcting historical slippage.